Hi, friends. It's the Fat Culture Critic. Um, and I'm a fool, or at least I have been fooled. Um, and I'm not alone. You might be feeling kind of foolish yourself right now. Um, so I was fooled by James Somerton. Um, and I don't want to add, I don't want to record a video for drama, but I want to sort of I think there's going to be a number of people trying to take lessons from this. And a lot of it's going to be people who are outside the experience. I think maybe it might be worth taking some time to try to figure out some lessons to take from this from someone who was fooled. Um, so that's what I want to do. I don't hate him. Please don't send hate to people, even people who have been deeply thoughtless and dishonest. And yeah, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe you don't want to, honestly. But if you venture beyond this point, so James Somerton is a queer Canadian YouTuber who makes video essays or made video essays about queer history, queer media, and that general vein of things that were very well produced and appeared very professional and appeared very well researched. But HBomerguy, who was a very reputable and famous YouTuber, just presented a very long video that is essentially the case for the prosecution on charges of rampant plagiarism. I mean, it's not actually a trial, but like HBomerguy researched it and presented it with evidence that makes it pretty close to beyond a reasonable doubt. Which was then followed up by a video by Todd in the Shadows, fact checking and looking at just how much that wasn't plagiarized was just made up. Just utter BS. Either taking conjecture for proof or, I don't know, just pulling stuff out of the ether. And when we're talking about plagiarism, it's not citing sources properly. He actually just stole people's words. And not just that, but he stole from vulnerable small creators, writers, basically all of whom were queer or writing about queer stuff. So he took money, and by taking attention out of these people's hands, he took money out of their hands. There are probably people whose careers ended that could have had more success. He didn't plagiarize from me, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think. But I did belong to his Patreon for a time and contributed to Telios. It wasn't a lot of money. I tend to try and give more money to smaller people, so it was a smaller, lower tier. So it's not like there are people he took a lot from, but I am not one of those. But I did give him my attention, and I have a platform. It's not huge, but I value you a lot, and I recommended him to you and to people on Twitter and around. So and I recommended him to some of my university profs and classes. So I feel where I feel fooled and foolish is the loss of my own credibility, because I was fooled. I took for granted that what he passed off as his work was his work. And I think a lot of people now are discovering his videos and knowing that they're false, and they're going, why would anybody fall for this? But that's easy to say when you weren't fooled. It's easy to say when you go in knowing that it's false. It's easy to see that it's false. It's much harder when when it's happening. And so I don't want to do this for drama, but I do want to think a bit about why I was fooled. And maybe it'll help you figure out why you were fooled. Maybe we can find some lessons from this. I don't know. So I had watched his videos and been part of the Patreon and supported the film and recommended videos. And I also for a time sort of considered him a friendly acquaintance as well as recommending his videos. Not like a friend, but there is this acquaintance thing that happens amongst a lot of people in the creator space, sort of weird melding of parasocial and social relationships that can be a bit weird to navigate, but it's a thing. And I know when I started getting traction on Twitter and people I had admired started following me, I had a lot of, oh, wow, I'm kind of starstruck. And I took people at face value for the most part. And with most people, that's worked out okay. um, you know, but yeah, I was fooled by James Somerton. And I invited him to be part of my One Scene for Hope playlist thing that I did a couple of years ago. Or yeah, about that now. And I was at the time I was a little bit, I don't know, that he didn't attribute the in the video that it was for the thing, and he didn't link the playlist. And I did the, oh, well, I must have not explained that part of the point is to lift up each other's stuff, everybody's stuff. I'm not needing I'm not, it's I like the boost, but it's not really, I was trying to do a whole thing with lots of people. And most people did put their, playlist and checked each other out. And I got to know some new people and we got to know each other, but he didn't do that and he didn't get to meet the other people. But, I was kind of oh, well, okay. It's not the first person I've met who's not very good at that kind of networking things. So I don't know. I thought, well, I guess I didn't explain that part. That video is no longer on the playlist, obviously. Yeah, took that down. But yeah, I still kind of considered him a friendly acquaintance at least. And I didn't go to the live streams very often at all because there was a lot of diet talk, body issue stuff, and that I don't stick around for people talking their bodies down. Or getting enthusiastic about weight loss. That is not my bag. That is not good for my mental health, or in my opinion, other people's. But that's a thing people do. And so I wasn't going to be well, you shouldn't do that. I was just going to well, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be around that. But I did still kind of consider him a friendly acquaintance around the incident you guys may have heard of where he had beef with Jessie Gender. And Jessie is someone I have known nearly as long as I've been doing this, and nearly as long as she's been doing this. I've been following her anyway, and we connected and pretty early on, and it's been a joy to see her rise, because if you have known Jessie for even the briefest moments, you know that she is one of the loveliest humans on Earth, and only someone as horrible as Rowling or Matt Walsh would attack her. So it was very strange that he got into beef with her. It was because he went off about Nebula. And I had formed an opinion by that point that he was kind of a hothead and his own worst enemy. But that's not sort of unforgivable thing. You know, some people just are a bit like that. And I was DMing both of them at the time, but I will not discuss any of that. So, but I didn't quite cut him off at that. I didn't cut him off at that point. It was later that I tried to call him in on some stuff, on the body image stuff, from one video, and got no reply whatsoever. And I'm a bit naive. I'm probably coming off as terribly naive in this video. But the one red flag that I try very hard to always notice is if someone doesn't take criticism well. And so I had, at that point, I was like, I'm kind of done with this guy. And then I was somewhat clued in by the Whisper Network that there was some issues, although it was not specific because it's a Whisper Network. So, yeah. I, cut off my Patreon donation and stopped recommending him and all that. So, yeah, like, not to do the drama thing, but that was sort of my experience. And the thing is, like, I had already even started to notice holes in the videos, but I was sort of second guessing myself, like particularly the video about gay body image stuff. He was talking about, he was setting it as being like the current fitness obsession, body image stuff, as being around Nazi Germany and people admiring the Nazi aesthetic and trying to copy. And I was kind of like, that, like, fat studies is my thing, and that kind of doesn't jive with a lot of what I'm studying. But of course, I was like, I'm more focused on the feminist perspective, and like what I read is more centered around like female assumed bodies, women and femmes, more than cis gay men. So I sort of assumed that he was looking at research that I had seen. And I'm aware that there was some stuff around, Tom of Finland, and like that some of his aesthetic was influenced by the Nazis, and that's influenced a lot of gay men and fitness aesthetics. So like I was just, I'm not seeing the stuff that he's seeing, but that doesn't mean that it isn't, it isn't real. And my response to that was like, it's great you're looking at this from a cis gay perspective, but maybe you want to, then very specifically white. It's a very specifically white perspective. But so I was like, maybe you want to look into reading Sabrina String's work and Deshaun Harrison, like to understand, like, because actually the fitness and healthism and anti-fat history has a lot more to do with anti-blackness than than the Nazis. Like, it's a different kind aspect of white supremacy. There's also some Orientalism stuff that Sabrina String gets into, and some anti-Catholic. So like there's a lot of stuff that goes into any kind of, yeah. This isn't a fat studies video, but you should read those books. See, so yeah, I saw that there were holes, but I assumed it was a good faith, and I assumed that I was missing something because, well, because I am a middle-aged woman and I have been taught to criticize myself and second guess and assume that I am in the wrong. And also, like, as the child of an immigrant, I have some assimilation brain going on and have been taught to defer to the authority of white men. And I thought I was, I thought I had worked on that. Tried to work on that. I find myself having been somewhat cynical about members of my family that I see bending over backwards to turn over their entire world of thinking and everything dependent on which white man is in the room. And I let myself think that I was deprogramming that, but it looks like I'm still kind of vulnerable to that. And if you're honest with yourself, how many of you also, because of assimilation brain or just the general hegemony, white men talking well, equal authority? That is one of those little bits of programming stuck in your brain. And yeah. And to be like kind of forgiving and be like, well, of course you missed the whole anti-blackness aspect of this because it's not something you've lived. Not thinking, oh, you shouldn't speak on this because it's something you have lived. You should, like, not holding him to the standards that I would hold myself to, and that the world holds to people who are darker than a toasted chickpea, to standards, higher standards. And yeah, I admit, it looks like I have more work to do on that. And I think there's also confirmation bias. You know, enough of what he was saying in a lot of his videos was stuff I agreed with, that I maybe didn't think hard enough about the stuff where I went, huh? And didn't think about the lack of I didn't think about the lack of citations, partly because I find citations really fiddly and annoying. It's just my ADHD brain. And like, I try to find other ways to attribute. And I know that's the thing I need to work on. But the thing is, sometimes I do video essays and sometimes I do culture commentary, and yeah, sometimes it's hard to always know where your knowledge comes from. But I promise you, I'm always using my own words. If I'm using someone else's words, I'm gonna tell you I'm quoting them or paraphrasing them. So yeah, there was confirmation bias. I mean, we like to think we're better than the people who fall for, the men with podcasts. But on the left, we can fall for confirmation bias too. And then I recognize that he was selling what I was I was buying what he was selling. I wanted more queer history, more queer media talk. I wanted that. A lot of us want that. I mean, I was at least getting it from studying gender studies. But still, you want more, and there's only so much JSTOR you can do, and now I no longer have access to that. And I think we should have a conversation about the way that academic gatekeeping is part of the problem in all this. But that's for a different, it's just it's when we can't access a lot of the research, it's much harder to do the research. Anyway, different topic. Another thing that I think he was selling that I wanted was that he was able in a lot of his videos to express righteous anger. And again, kind of as a immigrant and other things, like I am a person who's been taught not to express anger. Anger is a difficult thing to express, and I know I'm saying this, and like one of the bigger videos on my channel is one where I kind of get very angry, but that is very unusual, and I am still embarrassed about that. It's weird how the videos that take off are the ones where you're most embarrassed. But like that is something that I struggle with. Sure, like a lot of women and femmes and folks in that realm of experience, like, we're variously taught to not be angry, not express anger, and there is something fulfilling about watching someone else express that anger. It's then like uncomfortable when they're also expressing like misogyny. That was one of the things that they turned me off, is I'm not angry at straight women. So like, the anger at the erasure of queer history, and the anger at the homophobes. And I think the anger was real. And I think that's part of why I sort of came to the conclusion he was kind of a hothead who didn't think things through. Because there are things that it's worth getting angry about, and then there's just being angry. But yeah, I think that played an element into it too, is, I'm a nice middle-aged lady. I don't do the expressing of the anger. Not often. Even this, I'm like disappointed. I am not angry. I'm disappointed. And another thing that I think was playing into why the second guessing of myself, when I was going, why is it anger at so many things and not just the things that are important to be angry about? Why that doesn't make sense? Why, and that doesn't seem to jive. The part of my brain that was recognizing, hey, there are some red flags. And I think part of why I didn't pay attention, why I second guess the red flags, is in part, a lot of bisexuals, I have a certain amount of imposter syndrome about being in queer spaces. Yeah, for a long time I wasn't even no, it would be appropriation for me to call myself queer when I haven't dated women. It's like, Sarah, you haven't dated many men. Okay, but Sarah, you have a crush on Rachel Maddow. Yeah. why are we watching Carol again? Right. Maybe it's time we acknowledged. And then all my friends said, yeah, we knew. But so yeah, the bisexual imposter in queer spaces thing is common, especially for my generation. Like bi erasure in the 90s was a thing. So yeah, that added to the whole second guessing of myself thing. Who am I to question someone talking about queer history when I'm wondering if I'm queer enough? Oh, right. I'm someone with a gender studies degree, which he didn't have. I've studied queer theory. Yeah, I think I know about queer stuff, but I'm still going, so yeah. And of course, if any of you said, I'm bisexual, does that mean I'm queer enough I would be like, damn right you are. But you know what it's like, man, we're directed at ourselves. So yeah, I think that was a factor. So yeah, I was wanting what he was selling. And also the other thing that I was craving and that I thought he was offering is authenticity. How funny that sounds now. No, but I was a teenager in the 90s and everyone was all irony pilled and I was a goth kid, so like sentimental and authentic to the point of cringe is kind of me. I mean, I think it goes back to the autistic ADHD thing. Um, and there's a lot of people who present rather cynically, and uh, people talk about like being authentic and sentimental and vulnerable is just cringe, and I know I'm cringe. I'm fine with that. Um, and he appeared to be authentic, and I wanted authenticity, and I think a lot of us wanted authenticity. And the thing is, the words he was saying came from an authentic place. That authentic place was not him. Um, and so like that authenticity was there. The writing about queer history and queer art was there, but it was a cynical son of a bitch who was presenting other people's work as his own. And so I didn't get to read those articles or see those videos because they weren't getting the attention, because this is an attention economy and a slick marketing expert knows how to exploit the attention economy. And I also feel stupid because I studied some communications and I still feel stupid. It's okay. I feel foolish. But it's okay. Sometimes awkward, icky feelings are good, are how we learn stuff. So yeah, I feel awkward and icky about having been fooled. And that is a sign that I need to think about why I've been fooled and think about what I want to do about that. Not in terms of regarding him, because like I don't believe in the carceral anything, and there is no mechanism to hold him accountable. So the only response is fuck it. But going forward, I have to think about the fact that I have been fooled and I have been foolish and I have lent my credibility to someone else in a way that tarnished it. Does that mean I'm going to be more cynical myself and more suspicious of people? Hey, I don't know. I'm 41 and honestly, I have been fooled a few times. Um, I have a history of being taken in by narcissists and usually giving my time and work freely and energy um, to people who took. Um, Far worse than him. Uh, or giving my time and energy sometimes where it wasn't wanted and creating a space of obligation that sucked. But um, like, I don't know, I rediscovered only like a year and a bit ago that I accepted that I am autistic as well as ADHD, and so maybe that sort of makes sense that I kind of take people at face value a little bit, and people take me for granted or take me for, and then yeah, people have taken advantage. People do that sometimes. But then also, I have given of myself and my time and my work to people who are worth it. I have taken people at face value and met honest, good, great people. And do I think that becoming more cynical and being suspicious of everyone would make this not happen again? Maybe. Would it be worth it to miss out on the chance to meet good people? No. So, do I need to be more cautious when recommending other people's work? Yeah. Yeah, we need to do a bit more fact checking, a bit more trusting my instincts when I see something that makes me go, huh? Um, but that doesn't, I don't want to just become a cynical person who doesn't trust people. Also, like, I'm an old dog to learn new tricks. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna be thinking about this for a while. And I know this is kind of a chaotic video, chaotic ramble. I do that sometimes. I hope maybe it made some sense for you folks. Um, since one of the good things to come out of this is people recommending other queer YouTubers, one thing I think you should all take a look at is mainly Mandy. Um, Made a video a few months ago about the imposter phenomenon. And it reminds me that something someone said recently was that we should remember that actual imposters don't have imposter syndrome. I have been feeling kind of weird about like all my half finished scripts and not getting stuff out, and I'm working on stuff, and I was seeing in my subscription feed all these videos from James Somerton that I wasn't actually watching, but I hadn't unsubscribed. I don't know why. And I mean, like, damn, how am I like failing to get, to get my essays written when he's like banging them out? And because he wasn't writing them. So yeah, maybe that's also a lesson we should take. um, to not be judging ourselves against the people who are banging things out for the algorithm, because maybe they're not doing them. Like, there are people who like put out a lot because they just never stop working, which is Jesse. But then there are, yeah, if they don't seem to be like driving themselves to exhaustion, maybe they aren't actually doing the work. So I'm not entirely sure how to end this weird ramble, but I think I would really like to thank my Patreon supporters. So I'd like to thank my $10 supporter Terry Young, and my $5 supporters who are in the thing, and all my $1 supporters as well. I promise you, I will only ever use my own words or tell you if I'm using someone else's, and I will try and be more careful about videos that I recommend. Um, yeah, I wish I could say I'll never get it wrong again. I can't. But I am sorry that I got it wrong. Um, I was fooled. We were all fooled. Um, but the blame for that lies with the person who did the fooling. We can all try and learn why we were fooled. Um, like we can all try and learn, but the blame for someone behaving fraudulently is with the fraudster.